Welcome to Aspiro Life for November 1st, 2011. The intention with Aspiro Life is to share with you the latest and most up-to-date insights of the changes taking place on our planet. We invite your feedback and comments as to what could assist you as we move towards this collective awakening. For those of you who wish to contact me, my website is www.aspiro.lifestyle.ca. On today's show, we are fortunate to have Neil Kramer. Neil is an English writer and philosopher specializing in the field of consciousness, metaphysics, shamanism, and ancient mystical disciplines. Neil's website is www.neilkramer.com. Welcome, Neil Kramer, to the show.
Well, thank you for having me. It's great to be here.
It's a pleasure. Okay, I want to jump off here with speaking about, as you and I just were mentioning just before we started recording, about this end of the Mayan calendar that a lot of people have looked at as opposed to the December 21st, 2012 date. We've been looking at this date for the past number of years of October 28th, 2011. And I've gotten some emails from listeners that have said, you know, what is going on? I see that there's a lot of chaos out there, but it doesn't have the sense of oneness that we were kind of anticipating. And for those of us that have been on this spiritual path for quite a number of years, we were feeling pretty optimistic about this date. So I guess my question is, how do we move from your perspective to these higher realms, and what is your sense of what this period of time is all about?
Well, there's so many things embedded in that question. I'll try and unpack them one by one.
Okay.
The first thing in terms of calendars and measurements of time and measurements of cycles of consciousness and cycles of light and dark is that this process has been going on for about 10, 15,000 years on Earth. And men and women have measured these epochs for a long time, and the Mayan calendar is quite a recent iteration of that process, if you want to put it that way. And I think part of the value of it is in understanding that the measurement, as I'm sure yourself and many of your listeners fully conceive of, is not necessarily chronologically of time. It's not a temporal measurement. It's a measurement of consciousness, and it's a measurement of a development of consciousness. And I think what calendar start points and stop points show us is the time when a consciousness shift occurs at the sort of critical mass level. So what a lot of people get confused about is thinking something staggering is going to happen, and there's going to be this phenomenal shift into unitary consciousness and so on. Mm-hmm. And of course, if this date is tomorrow, we shall soon see, won't we? But I think the principle underneath all of this stuff is the thing that is very deceptively simple to overlook. And the principle is this, that the seed of conscious change is actually absolutely dependent on the individual. And so everybody's experience of these shifts as they occur is completely and necessarily dependent on their own perspective and their own outlook in life. And so if there is any sniff of disavowal and disownment of one's own journey and one's own unfoldment, which I think we're going to come to this in a little bit more detail later, then your experience of the shift is going to be sort of directly correlated to that. So in other words, if you are living in your center, in your truth, authentically in power, and absolutely with complete purity, then the shift is very obvious. It's very clear, and it's been happening for, I would say, about 8 years, and we're just reaching a peak point now. So it's a little bit, to me, like it's the summertime, and then on one day in the summer, it's the hottest day. And if you're really involved in your own path and you're really busy and doing stuff, you may not even notice that day come and go, because the actual movement of summer as a season is something that takes place over quite a period. And I think this phenomena and this concern, quite frankly, although people like to wrap it up as optimism, it's a concern in a way as well, that is something going to happen, is something not going to happen? It is going to happen, but you'd have to be extremely highly tuned to even notice it, in my view. Mm-hmm. But that doesn't detract from the profundity of what's occurring, because it is deep, and it is fundamentally changing the way the human story is playing out on this planet. It couldn't be more profound, but it isn't a light switch moment where somebody throws that switch and everything changes in a moment. I don't think it would benefit anybody if it worked like that. So I think we have to look at this through a lens that gives us a broad perspective on it, and say that shift does happen over a period of time. It's not in a moment. So these epochs, as they come and go, have been tracked way before the Mayans showed up, way before the Toltecs showed up, way before the Druids showed up, way before the Egyptians or the Sumerians. You can go back and back and back and back, and I think it sort of benefits us. It does us well to consider that historical time period and realize that in terms of man's story, that the Mayans are one recent version of that, and they have a very beautiful version of that, and it's very absorbing, and it's perhaps one of the most engaging systems there is, if you want to look at it in that way. However, when you understand that it's new and it's recent and it's happened many times before, rather than, again, sort of disenfranchising one from the adventure of this change of epochs, quite the reverse. It shows us that it happens over and over, and it is regular, and it is something that we can depend upon to keep bringing us forward. So I have a very positive attitude about it, and doing what I do, I mean, nearly every day I get emails about some sort of end date or beginning date or shift or grid takedown or silence or solar flare or ascension or something. And if I put a calendar on the wall and put a little red dot on every day where something magnificent was going to happen, it would be every single day, quite frankly. It would be every day, and I would be wondering whether it would be a good day to go to the supermarket or not, and I'd be thinking, shall I do this today, or shall I buy 300 cans of beans today and some candles, It's like, it's all the time, it's happening all the time. And I think even in that humorous little sort of metaphor, there is something there that says, well, it actually is happening every day. Something fundamental is happening every day. But people want to see that represented in a pivotal, focal event. So they want to see something. They want to see the clouds open, or they want to see a physical shift, or they want to see a molecular restructuring, or something like that. And I think those things do happen all the time, every day. Depends who you are and where you live, as to your ability to perceive that and become close to the experience of that. If you don't truly walk the spiritual path, and in my experience, I have to say most people do not, then you're always kind of on the edge of waiting for something to come in and transport you. And it's that forgetfulness that the stargate to this kind of wonderment is actually inside us. It's nowhere else. It is inside the individual. You yourself, that is where it is. That's where reality is projected from. And so your experience with reality depends on the purity of your perception and the purity of your being and the authenticity of your day-to-day conduct. It's not secret knowledge. It's not some sacred stuff buried somewhere that somebody digs up and whispers the secret in your ear. It's actually your own life that configures you for this shift. And I think that's the problem that a lot of people encounter, including myself. It affects everybody. That we have to understand that it is our very lives themselves that are the literal depiction of our spiritual attainment. And so if things are not good in your life, they're that way for a reason, and you can't